Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live stream. This is all about how using eating and exercise to change your energy. So this is very exciting information because this is going to put spirituality practices into a tangible form. And as you are putting a spiritual practice into a tangible form, the tangible form, meaning eating and exercise, is going to have so much more meaning to you that it's going to inspire you to stick with it. So, if you're sticking with eating and exercise to change your energy because you want to manifest the life of your dreams, then while you're sticking with the eating and exercise to do that with your energy, your body transforms because you're actually, for once in your life, sticking with the eating and exercise habits. So good, right? So my eyes are going to go back and forth because I've got my phone up for Instagram and I've got my laptop up for Zoom and for Facebook. So I can also put this up onto YouTube. So if you haven't gone to my YouTube channel, go to youtube.com/Lauren Sercione. Okay, so let's dive in because I want to make this really potent, impactful for you so that you can get energized and inspired, have that well of energy come up within you that says, yes, this is what I want to do for myself instead of needing motivation to keep you going. And when you don't have your external motivator anymore, you don't do anything. So I really want this to help you get excited about how you can make these changes for yourself. Okay, I was just double checking everything's recording. Okay, so how we do this in the Fat Life, and I'm going to refer to the Fat Life because our group container, our very first group container, starts on June 2nd, next Monday. And today I had the bonus onboarding call with the woman who has signed up. So the first two women to sign up get to choose, and they can do this on a monthly basis, a 1 week period of Telegram where you've got me in your pocket each month, or you each of the 3 months, or you can have a 50-minute one-on-one session once a month. So, like maybe you want more exercise information, maybe you want to talk about the energetic stuff and sabotage a little bit more, or you kind of want me just like in your pocket for a week period. Now, that's the bonus for the first two women to sign up. And I gave her a VIP call for signing up early since we don't start until June 2nd. So, what we're doing in the Fat Life and in this very initiatory container is whatever rate you sign up with. Right now, it's still at $111 a month. You can lock that rate in for the rest of 2025 because I am going to increase the rate as we get results rolling in and the value increases. So, if you know that you've wanted to work with me, now would be the time to do it, especially astrologically. Like the planets are working in our favor to move forward and leave the past behind us. Okay, so that being said, how we do eating and exercise in the Fat Life process, heal, align, transcend is that we are using the eating and exercise to strengthen two polarities within our body. The feminine polarity that has to do with vibration and matter and materialization and feelings, and the masculine energy that has to do with moving forward, setting the tone, infrastructure, follow through. And those two polarities are the polarities that are within all of us. Every single person has feminine and masculine energy within them. But what I want to introduce to you is an idea about the logos. And the logos is the pre biblical creation story of a quote unquote masculine God. And I'm saying quote unquote masculine God because God is really feminine and masculine. But the logos is the organizing structure in the non physical world of which everything manifests around. Similar to how there are energetic grids for electricity to flow onto the streets, into our houses, stuff like that. So, what we're doing with the masculine energy, the organizational structure, or the organizational component of energy, is that we are putting it into practice with exercise. Because what happens is if you commit to just 1 day a week of exercise, just 1 day, that's all you need to do, and you follow through with it, you're closing a gap on an energetic cycle. It's also kind of You can kind of think, well, no, we won't get into that. I was going to go into some spiritual symbology, but that's too much in the weeds for right now. I want you to think about this, that if you're a woman and you have had rupture, if you've had physical or emotional separation from your dad, and maybe that has impacted the way you can relate to a romantic partner, I want you to think of the exercise as you showing up as the father you didn't have, or the man that you have not yet attracted into your life. That you want someone who has loyalty, that you want someone that has more masculine energy than you do, that you want someone who does what he says he's going to do. You want someone who's going to provide infrastructure so that you can actually have space for your emotions instead of you having to do it all. So for me, when I was going through this process, when I had to take another break from exercise in 2020 because my neck issue soon became a thoracic spine issue, I took time off to where I was walking 6 miles a day, only doing Pilates. Then I incorporated corrective exercise, which is different than Pilates because it's very central to your joints, and how the energy transfers through your body, through your shoulders, your hips, your knees, and your ankles. Then I started going to the gym and lifting light weights and doing really high repetition just for the purposes for me to actually just feel okay. This muscle that gets out of whack needs to get stronger. This one that's out of whack needs to get loosened up. Now, how can I actually do multiple reps with 5 to 10 pounds so that I could actually feel these? And then I started to do a little bit of bodybuilding stuff. And then I had the most magnificent training partner. You may have seen him on different videos. His name is Mo. He's awesome. My friend called me Baby Mo because I started to fill out like a little bodybuilder. But my point is that when you are following through with your exercise, you are not only creating an infrastructure for your body to last a lifetime and age like a fine wine, but you are also closing the gap for yourself mentally and emotionally, that you are doing what you say you're going to do. And this builds trust, right? It builds trust in a relationship and it builds trust within yourself. And this is why the trust building is so important with the exercise of deciding that you're just going to work out 1 day a week and follow through. When you have self trust, then, when you go to the food and you think about food, or you think about how much you weigh, or you think about how your clothes are fitting, you will not spiral, at least as easily or as violently, until you start to work with the energy to understand why you're actually having these feelings. So one of the biggest things that we have in the fitness space when we're, as a woman, when we're working like for a professional like me to work with a woman like you, a lot of it is I don't trust myself around food. I have an event to go to and I'm going to starve myself all day because I know I'm going to be eating at night and I don't want to overeat. Things like that. And those are things that have happened to me also. Like, for instance, I used to have my Wednesdays be a Mexican meal out. This is when I was like on my strict macro tracking, where you could see a lot of the abdominal definition coming in. So we would have our Mexican food on Wednesdays. And then Saturdays, I would go out with my training partner to have pancakes after our workout. Well, turns out we decided that we were going to have sushi one day for dinner. And do you know the amount of panic I had going through me because we opted out of the pancakes in the morning because we were going to have all this high glycemic carbs in the evening? And I was freaking out because I was going to be out of my routine of the pancakes that I looked forward to so much to compensate by not having so many carbs. When really, in reality, I could have had pancakes and sushi in 1 day and it would not have destroyed all of my results. But I had gotten so regimented and I was actually under eating for the amount of muscle that I was growing that it was so stressful. And I was stressed out the entire day, and then by the time it came to eat, it was like, is this even enjoyable? This has like been worrying me all day. And the whole week I was stressed out about it. And so that's a problem that a lot of us have, that we don't trust ourselves around food. And that's why if you decide that you're going to work out 1 day a week and you follow through, you are building self-trust on an unconscious level. Because what happens is you in the moment will become your own coach, your own life coach, your own personal trainer, to where you start to feel that unsettledness around an event that has food around it. And you're like, wait a minute. No, I can do this. I can do this. You use the habit of 1 day a week and following through with it as a checkpoint. So when you start to spiral and you feel all those emotions come up, you calm yourself down and you talk to yourself and you're like, no, I have self trust. Even if you don't feel it in that moment, you are parenting yourself and reminding yourself in that moment, I have self trust. It will be okay for me to eat more than I usually eat. It will be okay for me to eat outside of my schedule. I will be okay. I will not destroy my progress with 1 day of eating. So I want to tell you that because these were some of the things that I was noticing for myself. Because when I was on my anti-inflammatory diet, I was healthy. I didn't have my digestional issues I was having before I went on the anti-inflammatory diet. But then when I got into the macro tracking, because I was like, I want to be healthy, but I also want to have the aesthetic. And so that was such a limited type of food. I didn't get to eat the roughage that most of us eat when we're on a diet to fill up our space, right? Like on a lot of lettuce or asparagus or spinach, stuff like that. That stuff was off limits. So the food that I had was squash or root vegetables. And root vegetables kind of have more carbs than we'd like kind of like to for how dense they are and the fullness that we're not getting in our stomach. So I had to figure out another way to get pleasure out of my life other than food because the food was so restrictive because I had that goal of the six pack. So I was figuring this stuff out as I was going, and I was like, this is genius. And then the more I was able to understand how emotions were showing up in my body or in my food, then I was able to apply some of the things we know, like from attachment theory, and some of the like the laws of the universe about manifestation and stuff like that. It was really incredible. So what I want to share with you is that when we are looking at the food, right? So we already kind of covered the exercise, how that's building the infrastructure and that's helping you create self trust for you when you're approaching food. So the whole thing with the food though is that the food, because it relates to feelings, we really get to see our feminine energy. And our feminine energy for all of us, like all of us have the feminine energy, but symbologically, feminine energy has to do with the inner child because it is in that unconscious state where we're basically in download only brain waves that we are interpreting every emotional sensation in our body as true and about us. And if we have attachment trauma, meaning that the people that are closest to us to help us stay alive on the primal level, especially in the ages of 0 to 3, if we have physical separation from them, our nervous system actually notices a threat. This is danger. If our nervous system does not feel connected to our caregiver's nervous system, that sends the fight, flight, freeze reaction response in the nervous system from the primal level of just survival. Then, if we have emotional separation where there is emotional dissonance, where our parent checks out or they're not meeting our emotional needs, they're not helping us process a feeling that we're having, whether they're busy and it's just life and this is the nature of what life is in our busy society, or they are cutting us off or they are checked out because they are in a triggered state, whatever the reason why the emotional separation leaves us to our own devices to try to figure out how to not feel that way. And because we don't have a big context for life, we make it about us. And because there is not a large context for life, that information gets stored in the body so that when we're an adult and we have a similar emotion, we internalize it as it is about us. Because in that download only phase of the program, it is about the body. The body is the only experience that we have to put the emotion. And that's unconscious. And that's why trying to change your eating habits is so hard. And that's why changing sabotage patterns is so hard because it is unconsciously stored in the body. So, how do you work with energy that's unconscious? You have to focus it somewhere. You have to use your mind to focus your awareness somewhere so that you can observe the emotions. And that is called alchemy. That is a spiritual practice that has been around for eons before the 2,000 years of the patriarchal religions that made us dependent on an external deity and relinquished all of our power and made everything about us evil and unclean and shameful. Do you see how this is connecting to the body and women's self esteem and body image issues? It sucks. So, if you give your energy, your unconscious energy, a container in the food, then you get to see the energy manifest. You get to observe how you feel about food, how you feel about dieting, and those two things will show you the inner child emotions from that unconscious state, and it will show you your adaptive parts. The parts of you, the angry teenager, as most people say, that is pissed off about the injustices that the inner child has faced, that protects the inner child from ever experiencing those emotions again. But here's the thing of how it becomes sabotage, because all those protective mechanisms are actually the fear of success and the fear of failure. Because the belief, the unconscious belief that's going on in your body and in this energy is that if you succeed, something harmful will happen to you. It also says if you fail, you will be embarrassed, especially if you made an announcement that you're in the fat life or that you have a goal and you don't meet it. So, all sabotage is preventing you from a perceived fear. That's all it is. And that's all it is, air quotes. But when you give it a container, then you can actually observe it. So, for instance, what happened for me is when I was on my anti inflammatory diet and I was tracking macros, I was frustrated because I was working with someone who I had a check in every week. I had a video check in every single week. I had a spreadsheet where I had to upload all of my data to where he was going to look at it and be like, well, you're not getting results, but here's what you ate. Or you did everything perfectly. You're not getting results. Where are you on your menstrual cycle? Oh, okay. So I was really tracking things to a T. Like I was so committed. So here's your scale, right? Got my hand pretending to be a scale. If you're going to just like track to a T and you really want some peanut butter, and you're like, peanut butter has a lot of calories, a lot of fat, not that either one of them are bad, but that it's a lot of energy and a very dense substance. So you have your scale and you put your empty spoon on the scale. Then you take your spoon off and you dip it in the peanut butter and then you put the spoon back on the scale and whatever now that number is actually what it is because you tear out the scale. So you tear. You either turn your scale on, put the spoon on, hit the tear button so it drops down to 0, or put your spoon on, then turn the scale on so it doesn't register that there's anything on it. Then when you take it off, there'll be a negative number, but then when you scoop the peanut butter and you put it back on, now you have the number. So maybe you have 8 grams of peanut butter. So that's how committed I was. So eventually at one point, I was really frustrated and I was like, this sucks. I don't have freedom. I can't just eat on a whim. I feel so restricted. And then a light bulb went off in my head that said, women around the world love tracking macros. So what's the difference? Frustration is an energy, is an emotion that I have. Macros are not the problem. So now where can I go look where frustration shows up in my life and how can I fix things in that area of life so that then the energy of frustration isn't showing up so hard in the macro tracking. So most people is finances, right? So I'm like, where am I the most frustrated? Oh my God, preparing for taxes. Okay, so let me organize everything. So I made a spreadsheet for my finances. I got my binder organized. My accountant says put everything in a binder so that you have everything by month. Staple your receipts to a scratch piece of paper so that when you get audited, you literally can hand over a binder to the IRS and you're going to be so pristinely organized that you're not going to have any issues. When she showed me this, she opened her closet. It was year after year after year of all her binders. So when I started to work on my finances just to organize them, then I had less energy of frustration. And so that is what we get to do in the fat life. That's like, you don't have to like go work on your finances in the fat life, but I'm going to teach you how to look at other areas of your life where these emotions of sabotage are showing up when it comes to your eating and your exercise. And so that is the process that I've brought myself through and that I have incorporated into the fat life, because when you are choosing to stick with your eating and your exercise habits for the purposes of changing your energy, your whole life changes. You really start to feel so much better. And to change your energy, you have to process the emotions that you're denying. And the emotions that you don't want to feel, they're still showing up. Your inner anger, your inner disappointment, your inner sadness, they're still showing up. You just can't see them because they're unconscious, but other people experience them from you. They are experienced in your body physically on the range of health to disease, and it's also in your ability to stick with the habits. And now here's the really great thing about working with me, especially in this kind of frequency, is that there's no wrong habit, or like there's no mess up. So like if you're someone who binges, I'm like, great, binge. Don't worry about if you binge that you're going to feel ashamed to tell me. Just journal what happens during your binge, because your binge is going to tell us about your energy. If you're going to diet and starve yourself and I'm telling you to practice moderation and you don't want to practice moderation, you want to starve yourself, then fine. Tell me what it feels like to starve yourself. Why are you doing it? And so then that way you can actually have a conversation with someone about this unconscious energy, because it is the unconscious that gets the bad rap, but it is the thing that is the most magnificent part of you, especially as a woman, because our unconscious is tied into our blood and our womb, the portal to the universe, whether you're going to have a baby or not, and it's tied to the actual moon. And the moon transmits energy based on the planetary transits. So your unconscious is the thing that has sabotage, but it's also the thing that has your superpowers. And so once you're able to get through the sabotage, chaos part of it by using the tools that we have, like with attachment theory, then we're really able to process these emotions so that then in life, when we get upset about something, we don't be reactive to the energy that is coming up. We can sense it and be like, wait, what is that? Oh, it's sadness. Wait, what is that? Oh, it's anxiety. Oh, wait, what is that? Oh, I'm angry. Okay, what just happened? Why am I angry? Given what I've gone through, it makes sense. Okay. So then when you're present in the moment and you're reparenting yourself in the moment, you're processing the emotion in the moment, your energetic capacity expands, your capacity for stress expands, and you don't go for the food to get rid of the feeling. So then you get the body results and you're changing your energy. So simple, so genius. Thank you very much. Okay. That is your live stream. I hope that was effective. We got 24 minutes in. If you want to unpack this stuff with me, June 2nd is our start date. Go to laurensercione.com for information about the group container, frequently asked questions, and the link to purchase. I'll see you there.